Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Good morning, everyone. Well, today I will be rolling solo as Chris needed to attend to some important business. So give me an extra dose of grace. You are going to love our guest today. Colonel John Mills is joining us. He's a senior fellow and national security strategist with the Center for Security Policy. He wears a number of other hats, including that of an adjunct professor and founder of the National Election Integrity Association, among other things. He has an incredible background, having served multiple combat tours. He served at the Department of Defense, both in uniform and as a civilian. He's worked at the National Security Council at the White House across 2 administrations and has served in joint, conventional, and special operations units as a senior staff planner on the chairman's joint staff. By all accounts, he is a warrior, a patriot, and it sounds like he might be among those who know where some of the bodies are buried. Colonel Mills, welcome to the show. Before we get into the discussion, let me read the scripture of the day. It is Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 19, and it says, "The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights." And this was one of my favorite scriptures in my early 20s. And what's beautiful about it is the picture it portrays is that of getting accustomed to new terrain. And I believe that we see our nation in a big transition. It's also a time of personal transition for many people. Many of you are going to find yourselves in the place of new opportunities that are very unfamiliar and seem difficult to navigate. But the Lord has equipped you for these, just as he's equipped the deer for difficult, uneven, mountainous terrain. And what a perfect passage for us to cling to in the midst of transition and taking on new assignments. The Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer, and he enables me to tread on the heights. Rely on the Lord and live from the place of trust that he has equipped you to be where he's put you. Well, Colonel, I always read a scripture and have some time to reflect on it before we start the conversation, because the Lord showed us early on that we needed to be grounded, because so many of the conversations we have here are very heavy and a lot of them make us downright angry. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for being with us. Thank you for your service to this country.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. An honor to be on this show with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start out with what's at the top of everyone's mind, these drones. Part of what I think is that it's a big distraction from something else important that maybe we should be focused on, that the powers that be maybe don't want us to be focused on. But what's your take? Are these a direct threat to us?
Well, these concern me, Danielle. And yes, there's deep state blob, misinformation, distraction, but we also have to be discerning and realize when there's something important going on. I think there's something going on, and there's so many branches, sequels, and angles to this. It's hard to even know where to begin. But I think something real is going on. I think a foreign power may be involved. It could also be elements of the U.S. government. We had the breaking news essentially over the weekend. It was citizen reporting that came up with this. Was the Nuclear Regulatory Commission had released an alert that a load of medical grade nuclear material had been lost in New Jersey, which gave credence to was this potentially a response package from the U.S. government attempting to locate them via drones? Now, I used to actually was kind of related to some of this response to loose nuke pre-drone. We didn't have any drones when I was doing this, but Some of these drones would be ideal to carry some of the sensors and sniffers needed to try and identify loose nuclear material. So, I mean, several things could be true simultaneously. We need to be discerning. Not everything is a deep state fake out. And that's where the scripture says to be discerning on. But I think we got a situation, and it's in enough places of concern that I think there's a possibility of a foreign power in play, probing us, testing us, seeing our readiness. And some of the most recent ones was reported to be Hill Air Force Base in Utah. And people say, okay, so what? Big deal, an Air Force Base. Who cares? More deep state fakery. Well, you've got to remember what goes on at Hill. It's not well known. Hill Air Force Base is essentially where the maintenance, the regeneration of our Minuteman III, our ground-based nuclear deterrent. When they pull a missile out of the silo, they send it to Hill Air Force Base for maintenance refurbishment.
Wow.
We store a number. I don't know the number of reserve Minuteman III missiles there. And also when they do a test launch out of Vandenberg, which, oh, by the way, they just arrested a Chinese national for flying a drone over Vandenberg. The Chinese are very interested in what's going on at Vandenberg. So that's where at Hill is where those Minuteman IIIs are prepped and then moved to Vandenberg for a test launch.
Wow.
So, and they
what
also
state
got
is Vandenberg?
So Vandenberg is on the coast of California, right above Los Angeles. It's a big complex. We do a lot of our classified spy satellite launches from there, but we also have our ground-based interceptors to intercept incoming ballistic missiles there. We got them there. We got them in Alaska. So the Hill Air Force Base episode is concerning. Last December, we had 17 days of drone swarms going around the largest military base base cluster in the world, the largest of any government, of any nation in the world. 17 days flew unopposed. So Danielle, there's a whole lot of branches and sequels we can get into, a lot of angles. Yeah. Is there some, I mean, yeah, the three weasel circus of Mayorkas, Kirby and Jake Sullivan, essentially getting angry that the American people are too stupid to understand their brilliance. But hey, they lost all credibility with the Japanese spy balloon last year. So, I mean, what do they expect? I mean, you think we're going to trust them now after everything else?
Especially when all they do is lie. Every
Yeah.
time I see one of them behind a mic, I know that they're lying. And they're busy insulting us, just like you said. Do you have a sense for if you had to guess who these drones might belong to, if it's a foreign government, who it might be?
Well, again, I think because of the number of reports, there could be some reports from well-meaning citizens that are wrong. There could be some reports of drones that are legally flying. There could be reports of U.S. government drones on test or maybe even looking for something. There could be, but also there's enough elements here. I'm concerned there also could be a foreign component. It would lead me to believe Iran is essentially acting as the front man for China. The Iranian government would not exist today if it wasn't for Chinese support. I mean, and you got to look Iran, the Hamas attacks into Israel. Those were funded by Iran. Iran works for China. Now, we have at least 4 Iranian nationals. It's a little unclear from the DOJ press releases if they're actually in custody or if they'd been charged in absentia. But one of the most concerning was it looks like we've arrested Abuzar Ramadi, an IRGC officer who worked at the FAA for 7 years. How in the world? The IRGC is a terrorist group.
Yeah.
How in the world? And I know I used to work at the FAA back in the 90s. I mean, I know the FAA, know the FAA folks pretty well. Huge breach of security. So he was a support contractor, but still there's certain at least secret level requirements. And now, as long as you didn't murder somebody, it's fairly easy to get a secret level clearance. Okay, but and the secret level does not. They don't look deep enough to come up with, oh, this person was a member of the IRGC. But something should have triggered the counterintelligence community with Ramadi. I mean, it's very concerning. So I believe he's in custody, but 7 years as a support contractor to the FAA, that means he was inside the National Airspace System. I mean, was he calling out where the location of Trump Force One was? I mean, this is scary.
It's absolutely scary. And I want to pull on your election integrity background as well while we're at it, because you brought up two states, Utah and California, that both have a present track record of basically bad elections, with Spencer Cox having completely stolen that election from Phil Lyman, who was by all means rightfully nominated by the Republican Party there. And then Governor Newsom, who made it illegal to ask anyone for credentials to vote. And Joe Hoft was reporting today that up to 24% of the vote in California was illegally cast. He reported that today. So do you think there's a connection between election integrity and these military bases being strategically located in those states and maybe being under the control of people that are not integrous?
Interesting angle. I'm not necessarily seeing a connection with that, but it is, California. I mean, and I know Joe and Jim Hoft pretty well. I think we really needs to be a Kash Patel investigation of the fraudulent voting in California. My simple posit is, from now on, the three slowest states to count get a free DOJ FBI investigation, because this is just, in California, it's absolutely obscene. I mean, the longer they count, the more Democrat votes they come up with, and the more Republican votes they cure and dispose of. So yeah, we need Kash Patel needs to really investigate. I think there's 3 to 4 House seats, never been done before, but I think we have a RICO organized crime ring that we need to look at and potentially overturn the outcomes.
I agree.
I don't care if the state of California certified those votes. I don't care, because it is so obscene with what's going, grotesque. Any reasonable person knows it's fraudulent. And the Carter Center for Democracy, it's in their 2014 gold standard book on what a fair election looks like. So that's one of the things it says. Extended vote counts are always signs of fraud.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
If Jimmy Carter said it, it must be true.
Well, if you put it that way, yeah, absolutely. This California certification was just a rubber stamp on fraud. And I think the same is true in a number of other states as well. Clearly not as many as 2020, thanks to the too big to rig plan. But I do agree that that doesn't pass the sniff test. But maybe switching gears a little bit, we are about 32 days out from January 20th, which many of us have been counting down to. I have some real concerns about what, could transpire between now and then. What's your sense? Do you feel like activity is ramping up that we need to be concerned about, or otherwise?
I don't think it's hysterical or conspiracy theorist. I think we need to be concerned, and I think it's what's in the collage of everything that's going on. It's clear the Iranians are are essentially the vanguard of Chinese attempts to topple America, which became formal Chinese policy with the agreement shortly before the Ukraine invasion, the no limits agreement with Russia, with Iran, Venezuela, North Korea to topple the American-led world order. So I think Iran is at the vanguard, and we have at least 4 suspicious Iranian personalities, Abu Zar Ramadi, as I mentioned, but 3 others that are IRGC related and clearly part of the assassination plot against President-elect Trump. So I think that it's a absolutely reasonable and valid concern to be followed up on, and we can see that we've already had Wray, FBI Director Wray, resign. Hooray for the union! That guy was just an absolute deep state buffoon, and we got the truth came out. At least 26 informants or undercover operatives in the at January 6th. So we got a broken federal government. We got an untrustworthy federal government. But again, we need to be discerning. Not everybody is part of the problem inside the U.S. government. Not everything is a deep state fake out. So let's just be discerning. But I think we need to be concerned. And I mean, Trump said because of all the drone activity in New Jersey, he's not going back to his Bedminster. And I don't blame him. That's a wise, I think a wise way to look at it. And we should be concerned of an attempt to them. Hey, we've already had, Butler, Pennsylvania. We already had the golf course at Mar-a-Lago. We got these 3 other Iranians that may or may not be in custody. At least one of them's in custody, the other 2. But we clearly have an active campaign going on against President Trump.
What do you think of his call for the U.S. military to shoot them down? I know yesterday some members of the military met with congressional leaders, and it sounds like reports out from those congressional members, maybe the Homeland Security Committee or something, said that they were quote unquote satisfied with the majority of what they heard from the military.
Well, okay, so we always got to talk about counter drone in the domestic airspace versus overseas. I mean, 90% of what the American public sees with all this counter drone capability, that ain't going to work inside the United States. They see all this cool things of Gatling guns, of missiles, and all these things. Yeah, none of that's going to work in the United States. The reality is we do not have a pervasive, mature interagency plan on how to deal with drones in the United States. And there's some great Congressional Research Service and GAO reports on this topic. We have 4 departments involved, and each of them has a little bit of legal authority. I'm not in any way being an apologist for Mayorkas and Biden, who were whining, we don't have the legal authority. There's a little bit of truth on that, but that doesn't, they don't get a pass on this. But you got
the never mattered before for them.
Yeah, but it is messy, and it's very immature and unresolved, because there's 3 trending issues that are causing a sudden, all of these issues are going to have a massive impact on the conduct of the national airspace system. You have urban air mobility, which there's a lot of big venture capital money. This is Uber for the air, where we actually are using essentially manned or unmanned drones for essentially deliver passengers in the urban area. That is, the FAA still is, it is very nascent, but there's a lot of big money interest pushing that. And the FAA is going, this is going to, right now, we track about 7,000 aircraft at a time in the national airspace system. This is going to increase that number many orders of magnitude
exponentially.
And it's just we don't have the air traffic procedures down to deal with this situation. This is crazy. I mean, So you got urban air mobility, you got drone package delivery. This is where we all, Amazon has been pushing hard and others for package delivery. And again, the FAA is going, this is now you're making it even 100 times more complicated. And then you have counter drone. Okay. How do you deal with a drone that is not trusted or is bad? Well, that's a great question. If the Department of Defense has authority, essentially shoot down authority at a very, very small niche of bases. Okay. A very small niche of bases. So the DoD itself, essentially in the domestic base structure, except for I'm not going to name which ones, but it's a very small slice. Okay. You got the Department of, let's go Department of Energy. They have essentially shoot down authority, out at the Nevada nuclear test site. Okay. And again, for both of those, for Department of Defense, the drone has to cross the fence line. Okay. They can't shoot down a drone if the drone has not, if you draw a vertical line up from the fence line, if that drone has not passed that point, they can't do anything about it.
Wow.
Okay. They legally cannot do anything about it. And that's where, we'll show the graphics here, the 17 days in December. Guess what? Those drone swarms knew not to cross the fence line. Okay.
That is wild. I want those kind of rules for my taxes.
Yeah. Well, see, this is where, and this leads me to think of China, because China is very good. I've noticed in the last couple of years is very good about reading our laws and regulations and understanding them. It's scary. They actually read our laws, whereas most of our congressmen and women and senators don't. Okay. So, they take it very seriously, and they, believe me, they apply a lot of intelligence resources just to reading our public laws. So that's that's how they knew, hey, there is no prohibition against foreign land purchases next to a DoD installation. Sorry, no law against it.
What graphic was it, Colonel?
Well, let's show, it should be the Virginia Beach one. So that after the 3-ring circus here. So that should be slide number 3, I think it is. All right.
Let me pull that up real quick.
Or it might be, let me see here.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, it is actually slide 3.
Here we go. That looks like the right one.
Yeah. So this is case study evidence item number 1 is the Virginia Beach area in December of 23, and for 17 days, drone swarms flew in this area. Now, those green ovals represent the general location of key facilities down there. And this is the largest base cluster in the world of any military, of any government, of any nation. Wow. It goes all the way from the top left, which is, I just call it another government agency. It's a government agency that has a facility up there. Then you have Cheatham Annex. Then you have Yorktown Naval Weapons Station. All the way down to the kind of the bottom right, you have Oceana Naval Air Station. You have Dam Neck, which is a sub facility of Oceana. A huge installation, a number of bases, and they flew. We didn't have the capability, the legal authorities to do anything. And again, these drone swarms, I'm just going by what I have read in public reports, never actually crossed the fence line at any of these facilities.
Wow.
So
that's some self-restraint.
Yeah, well, they know the game, and they go, well, yeah, nah, can't touch us. That's disturbing and concerning, because they know our laws and regulations. But it was an Air Force general on top of the Langley Air Force Base who observed them, and his description was large quadcopters. These are not your little DJI consumer drones. These are much larger. And I got a graphic we can show on that. In fact, let's bring that up. That should be
number 6, looks like, maybe.
Yeah, let's show number 6.
Okay.
Well, this is a relevant picture right here. This shows the F-22.
Oh, sorry.
And that's, our most expensive. We don't have a whole lot of these F-22s. The Chinese fear them. That's a weather shelter. That's not a ballistic protection shelter. However, what we're learning is that even in the domestic base environment, we have to be concerned that threat actors can disrupt. Now, this could be converted into a light protective shelter very easily by laying Kevlar blankets on top of this, and or adding a chain link fence on the top that if somebody dropped ordnance, it would provide some blast distance. So these could very easily and relatively inexpensively be converted. But see, that's the challenge. We have a lot of resources. Aircraft are extremely vulnerable when they're sitting on the ground. We just had a major war game that showed 90% of our aircraft that would be lost in a conflict with China over Taiwan would be caught on the ground and destroyed. So we gotta take this very seriously. We're operating in a peacetime mode. And that's where we got to start thinking wartime.
Is there any veracity? And I'll pull up here that the picture that I meant to pull up, which I think might be the next one. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's this one. Is there any veracity to this idea of a mothership? I felt like that's such sci-fi terminology. When people
I mean, the Iranians actually have several ships that are they're essentially retrofitted commercial ships that to operate as motherships, and also China has shown a fixed wing flying mothership that can drop large quadcopters. Like here, these are Ukrainian kind of hobby shop quadcopters, and look, they're hanging down and they're carrying, those are 60 millimeter mortar rounds that they can drop. That is extremely effective at destroying aircraft on the ground, for example. And so this is now I think I think you're only seeing 3 60 millimeter mortar rounds. I think that can carry more, like about up to 12. Wow. Those 60 millimeter mortar rounds, I think they're only about 3 to 4 pounds each. So that's not a whole lot of weight. And but that has enough with the shrapnel effect that can take, one of those drop close to an aircraft on the ground will take it out, very vulnerable. So we have to be very concerned about this. There's a let's show the next picture. I think it is.
And while I'm pulling that up, the other question I wanted to raise was related to the Virginia Beach situation. And I heard this week that maybe there are some threats, some Chinese threats to our naval bases.
They've been attempting to get onto our naval bases. This is a relevant picture. It may be a little hard to see, but this shows during the Cold War, all the air defense missile sites we used to have in the Virginia Beach area. They're all gone. They're all gone, retired, haven't been around for decades. Well, it was nice during the Cold War. We thought about actually protecting our facilities. So let's, but there's another picture of where we have a lot of aircraft on the ground.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I do have that one. Thanks for bearing with me, guys.
No, you bet, Danielle.
All right. A lot of buttons to click to make this happen. All right. Is this the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so I thought this was an interesting picture. So the top one is Naval Air Station Oceana today. It's the Navy's master jet base for the East Coast. So essentially all of our F-18s and F-35s for the Navy are at this base. Look how they administratively park them in a peacetime mode. Well, one of those quadcopters, you get 2 or 3 of those quadcopters, one pass, and you've wiped out just about all of our naval aircraft for the East Coast. It's crazy. And look down below, just for comparison, this is what Pearl Harbor, this is actually Hickam Field, which is adjacent to Pearl Harbor, looked like right before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Look at all those aircraft lined up,
Wow.
nice, easy, and neat. Makes it very easy to take them out on one pass. Yeah, is anybody notice a parallel? I mean, we're acting in a peacetime administrative manner, which is the Chinese are preparing, and they see this. They see us unprepared.
And
This is
incredibly vulnerable in terms of our supply chain, right? I mean, how much of our steel comes from overseas? How much of all of our raw materials and inputs for war period comes from
Yeah.
overseas?
Well, it's even, you know, our flagship aircraft, the F-35. There's I can't remember what the exact count is, but there is dozens and dozens and dozens of components that essentially trace to China, either at the base mineral level or, you know, as a component. But even I think some of the blades on the engine, on the jet engine, have been shown that they actually, but we've had to, you know, the argument is we don't have the capability, we don't have the industrial base, so we have to approve all these exceptions. Well, this is ridiculous. We can't. This is like, hey, Germans and Japanese in World War II, will you make some of our aircraft for us? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. So we've got to start building it here, you know, and it's tax cuts, it's capital gains cuts, it's huge cuts in regulation. Because even after you do those other incentives, companies say it's still too difficult to make in the U.S. I got OSHA, I got EPA, I got everybody standing around with clipboards pointing out everything wrong I'm doing. You know, this is just too difficult. I'm going to make it overseas.
It's true. And on your point there, what's your take on Trump's proposed team so far? Are you feeling like people like Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, Kristi Noem, if they get into place, and I guess, you know, with our talk on supply chain and onshoring, re-onshoring, production of critical infrastructure, you can talk about Elon and Vivek as well. Do you feel like they're equipped for the job? I mean, it's a mammoth task.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's an absolutely the best team we've ever had in the U.S. government. We need change agents. You know, everybody, you know, the classic corrupt legacy media. Oh, so-and-so isn't experienced. Well, how's it gone with all the people who've had experience? Okay.
Right.
Forget
John
about
Bolton.
this. Yeah. I'm tired of this. We got to have somebody with experience. Well, look at just the disaster they've created over and over and over again with all these experienced people. Forget about them. No, we need passionate leadership, passionate change agents. And kind of related to this is changing out uniform military leadership. People are going, oh, wow, that's provocative. Trump can't do that. No, actually, there's actually clear legal precedent and there's clear legal authority. A president absolutely has absolute authority to hire and fire general officers and flag officers. Absolutely. And Bo, by the way, before World War II, we called it plucking. And there was a massive plucking effort led by General of the Army, George C. Marshall. And and we did it again after our first engagement in Kasserine Pass in 1943. We did a massive firing of general officers because we didn't feel they were ready. And General Marshall did that because in World War I, when he was the adjutant to Blackjack Pershing, General Pershing did the same thing and did a plucking and removed a number of officers he didn't think were ready. And then it goes back even further. What did Lincoln do during the Civil War? He chose Grant and he fired a number. I mean, Grant was hated by all the legacy generals. And Grant says, Lincoln says, no, I want this guy. He wins, he fights. And Lincoln got rid of a lot of generals. So absolute legal authority, absolute legal historical precedence, and this goes across the entire U.S. government. Yes, we need change agents. We don't need the experts.
Yeah, the experts have just gotten us into war after endless war, with nothing to show for it. I mean, only losses to show for it, really, in my view. So much is happening on the international scene right now. You have Russia and Ukraine. We've talked a little bit about China. There's the toppling of Assad in Syria that we just saw last week. Of course, ongoing tensions in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. What, if any of these things, is kind of raising to the top of your awareness level? And is there anything that you think will uh, I just look so hopeful at this Trump administration because he's such an adept negotiator and strongman, really, in terms of being able to kind of put down some of these um, conflicts. You know, we didn't get into any wars under Trump's watch the first time. What do you think? How would you advise Trump to be looking at these different conflicts? And do you think we're going to start seeing some of this stuff de-escalate when he takes office on the 20th?
International relations are all about clarity, resolve, and leadership, none of which apply to the Biden team or any member of the Biden team. Listen, you can't come in and say, hey, we're the smartest, most experienced people ever. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. Yeah. They care about leadership. They care about clarity and resolve. Clarity and resolve, which it's patently absurd. It's clear. We talked about the three weasels for the domestic situation, but it's, Jake Sullivan, there's no clarity, no resolve, no respect. Everybody knows he's just lying, cheating, thieving. He's just no respect. So Trump is clarity. He is resolve. He is leadership. And that's what foreign leaders like. And even if they don't like him, they respect him.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is so much of what's going on in the world is because of a vacuum in effective U.S. Leadership. And it starts at the top. Come on. What do you got to, what's there to say? I mean, yeah. We haven't really had a president since January of 21. I mean, we've had this goofball who was able to get sworn in, but it's now patently obvious that, and we need to have absolute criminal investigations. They wanted to shove him out. We did an unlawful, the Dems did an unlawful 25th Amendment move in July after the RNC convention when they shoved Biden out of the way. Hey, if he's not fit to run, he's not fit to lead. Yeah. They did a de facto 25th Amendment without invoking the 25th Amendment. This was a criminal cabal that hid the cognitive state of the leader of the free world. It was a total RICO Act conspiracy. So we need to have investigations on that. But none of these events, so many of these events would not be turning out the way they have turned out if we had leadership and clarity and resolve. And that's you're going to get that on steroids with Trump. It didn't exist under whoever was running the country since January 21.
Yeah. Do you think that there's been utility in exposing some of what was beneath the surface through all of this? I think, since Biden was clearly, a figurehead, if anything, and not not cognizant of what was really going on, do you think that some of the things that have come out and the people that have shown themselves will be useful to the Trump administration as they pursue, I guess, justice, really?
Oh, yeah. And this is not about revenge. This is about holding people accountable. People's lives were destroyed. People's careers were lost. People were incarcerated. this has to, we're not going to, hey, you guys won, just kind of let's move on and forgive and forget. And no, absolutely not. No, we have to, and it's the right thing to do. And, Kinzinger, and, Cheney, hey, Cheney absolutely looks like she tamped. Hey, they put Steve Bannon and Navarro in jail.
Exactly.
Guess what? If it leads to that conclusion that she did tamper with witnesses, Cheney needs to go to jail. And we can't do that. Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can. And look, they weaponize the U.S. government against the American people. And again, we still have we have never had an official count of J6ers that are incarcerated. We've never had an official
and they're
count.
still going to jail. I saw on Twitter yesterday a woman said her daughter was driving her to report to prison for January 6, 2021. That's so unbelievable in the face of 8,600 pardons, including, and these are pardons for people who did absolutely despicable things.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, the pardon that Biden did for Hunter, I'm not sure that will actually hold up legally. We've accepted that presidential pardon is unassailable, but I think there's a number of issues with that. And part of it, I'm going, hold it. You said he wasn't competent to run. Ergo, he's not competent to be president. Ergo, he's not competent to be writing pardons. Okay. Right. So you can't have
blanket pardons.
You can't have it both. Yeah. You can't have it both ways. Okay. If you shoved him out of the way because he wasn't competent, he's not allowed to write pardons. And it is the blanket pardon. That is, some people say, well, Ford pardoned Nixon. I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison. The wording of that, and anything he might have done back to January 1st of 2014.
Come on.
I think that is just. I think that broaches again. We've just never challenged a presidential pardon. I think this is challengeable, and he's trying to. They're worried about. We have to. Jack Smith, we're going to have to pardon him. I think that's unlawful. This was willful misconduct, a criminal misconduct. No, we have to go after these folks, and it's not about revenge. It's not because we want to. It's a total waste of time, but it has to be done because we almost lost our country and our incredible constitutional republic. So we have to hold these folks accountable.
Yeah. And with your background, what's your take on the promise to declass going back to the JFK assassination, 9/11, all of that?
Absolutely. There's, listen, I've worked with classification, declassification of very sensitive information for many years. There is no compelling reason. Again, I've not seen what the CIA has still yet to release on the Kennedy assassination. I got both Jerome Corsi's and Roger Stone's book on the JFK. Very well done, both of them. But listen, the American people are owed truth. Even Johnson was on tape, and that's back during the days when, it was regular and normal to record a meeting, record a meeting. Well, hey, we record Zoom meetings nowadays, but back then you'd get the audio tapes. It was very common until the Nixon tapes of 73 and 74. But you got Johnson on tape going, well, if it was the Russians, we can't let the American people know about this. What am I going to do? Start a nuclear war over this? Well, I don't think hiding the fact is the right thing to do. It's truth, and the government works for the American people, and we need to know the truth. And so, I think we absolutely need to release everything. And unless, there was one situation I'll talk about where some classified information, top secret under U.S. 5 U.S. code. There's several exceptions. 25 years for top secret information. Well, somebody had asked for this information through a FOIA. It was like 30, 35 years. Everybody had approved for release, including the CIA. And when I read it, I absolutely said, absolutely not. We'd be releasing names of people who are still alive, who have helped the United States. How long do you think they're going to last once this information is out? What is the compelling reason to release these names when they help put their lives on the line to help the United States? And the CIA was like, oh, we don't care. Who cares? Well, I do care. These people are going to be killed if their names get released, and they helped us. So I think that's shameful. And I was able to get it blocked from release. There's no compelling, what does somebody need their names for? So they can hunt them down and kill them? No,
Yeah.
this is crazy. And
So there needs to be integrity in the declass process rather than in the classification process as well, because I think a lot of dirty deeds get hidden and covered over by overclassification. I've heard people like Ezra Cohen talk about overclassification being a big problem when the American people deserve to know what's really going on.
yeah, was he the one who wrote the executive order on release of classified information? He's the one who said, "Aha, we got Trump." Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I don't think so, because he was a Trump appointee at DOD, and
Oh,
he
okay.
worked. He's appointed to the National Archives as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's one of it's one of the basic guidelines. You can't classify information just because it's embarrassing, just to cover up
Right.
incompetence, malfeasance, or et cetera, on the U.S. government. So yeah, but the Dems will routinely do that, classify because it's embarrassing to the U.S. government.
Well,
Get
be
used to it.
embarrassed. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
get used to being embarrassed. I had one time. There was a working group that included companies, and somebody had FOIA'd which companies were working with the U.S. government on this topic, and the incompetent folks at a department, which I won't say which one it was, released the list, and it was like within like 2 years, so it wasn't even close to any of the statutory guidelines on time. Wasn't even close, and so the stupid government agency released the link. Well, hold it. We actually had clear written agreements not to reveal their names. And so the incompetents released all these companies who were working cooperatively for good reasons on a good project, and incompetent U.S. government personnel, poof, released their names.
Yeah.
So between evil behavior of the deep state blob and incompetence, we hide the information when we shouldn't be hiding it. We release the information when we shouldn't be releasing it. I mean, this is the problem, and we got to hold people accountable for this.
Yeah, Dan Bongino says that layered incompetence equals intent. That's what he talked about when it comes to Trump's first assassination attempt. And it's true for this as well. It's built into the system, and it seems like it's by design. And it's to the detriment of the U.S. citizen and to us as taxpayers as well. Because, you think about TSA and paying to be harassed, like you actually pay to go there. I mean, recently I was traveling with my family and they confiscated our salsa. And I was like, well, praise God. I mean, America is so much safer because you have my salsa. Thank you for your service. That's so ridiculous. And it just shows that there's no level of self-directed, I don't know, like the ability to say, does this make sense or not? No, rules are rules, and we're just going to harass everyone. So anyway, that's my little soapbox. But Colonel, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. We appreciate your insights and your service. Where can people follow your work? I know you do some op-eds, and are you on X? Is there a way for us to follow you there?
Oh, thank you, Danielle. Yeah, on X, I'm Colonel Rhett John 2, Colonel RET John 2 on X. On Substack, I'm Colonel Rhett John, Colonel RET John on Substack, also on Getter on Truth.
Okay.
You'll see me on on Newsmax, on War Room, on Real America's Voice, and I write regularly for Epic Times, Gateway Pundit, and also for Newsmax. And so you'll see me in a number of places.
Amazing. Well, we're so honored that you would take time with us this morning. I appreciate you, and you are welcome back anytime. We'll be praying for the state of the country between now and the election, and then the inauguration and beyond that. But we know that you've got eyes on it, and we'll be listening to what you have to say on those other platforms as well.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. An honor to be on your show.
Let me see if I can find the outro. Here we go. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, hey, Danielle,
What a
thank
treat.
you. Oh, you bet. You bet. Thank you. Okay.